Nikola Tesla was found dead, alone. The Do Not Disturb sign had been on his door for 2 days before anyone went in. Nobody knows exactly when he died or who was with him in those final hours. Within hours, the United States government seized every document in that room, every file, every paper. Some of those documents are still classified today. They say it is about weapons, about national security, but the real reason those files are still sealed has nothing to do with weapons. It has everything to do with the visitor who came to Tesla the night his laboratory burned to the ground in 1895. A visitor who has no record, no grave, no death. His name was Dracula. Dracula had been in the city for 11 years, long enough to know its rhythms, its streets, the particular quality of darkness that settles between buildings in a city that never fully sleeps. He knew immediately when something changed. It changed on a September evening in 1884. Nothing visible. Nothing a human being would have detected. A shift in the air. Faint, irregular, pulsing at a frequency that had no natural source. Something between lightning and thought radiating outward through the streets of Lower Manhattan. Dracula stopped in the middle of a street and stood completely still. In 3,000 years, he had cataloged everything, every threat, every force, every natural and unnatural thing the world had produced. He knew what could harm him, what could find him, what to move through, and what to avoid. He had never felt this before, not once, in 3,000 years. He followed the frequency to a boarding house on Lower Manhattan, 4th floor. A young man, 28 years old, pale, barely eating, sitting at a desk surrounded by equations, not writing, not working, simply sitting with his eyes open, seeing something that existed nowhere in that room. His name was Nikola Tesla. He had arrived from Europe 3 months earlier with almost nothing. No money, no connections, no laboratory. He was carrying something far more dangerous than any of those things. He was carrying the complete design of a machine that would change the world, fully formed, running perfectly inside his mind. Never written down, never built, simply existing in exact detail, waiting. Tesla said he heard electricity, that it spoke to him in frequencies nobody else could detect. Dracula believed him, because Dracula could feel those frequencies from a block away. And for the first time in 3,000 years, something made by a human being had reached him before he had gone looking for it. He did not know yet if it could harm him. He did not know what it would become. That uncertainty was the most dangerous thing that had ever happened to him. He began to watch. For 8 months, Dracula watched from the street. He stood outside Tesla's laboratory on South 5th Avenue, night after night, feeling what Tesla was doing from the pavement below. The electromagnetic pulse of the experiments moved through the building's walls like a second heartbeat. When Tesla worked at full intensity, the air on the street felt charged, alive, like standing at the edge of a storm that was deciding whether to strike. Dracula still did not know if it could harm him. In 3,000 years, that question had never needed asking. On the night of March 13th, 1895, the laboratory burned. Everything inside destroyed. 10 years of work, notes, prototypes, machines the world had never seen. All of it gone in hours. Tesla stood in the street in the cold and watched the smoke rise from what used to be his entire life. He did not speak. He did not move. Witnesses said he stood there for a very long time, absolutely still in the dark, the face of a man who has run out of everything at once. From the shadows at the end of the block, Dracula watched him. He had come because the fire, the sudden silence where the pulse had been for 8 months had pulled him here the way an absence pulls, the way you notice a sound only when it stops. The laboratory was ash. The machines were molten metal. The notebooks were smoke. And Tesla was standing on the pavement with nothing. Dracula stepped out of the shadows and walked toward him. He did not offer comfort. He did not pretend to be something he was not. He stood beside Tesla in the cold, and after a long silence, he said what he had come to say. Resources, connections, doors that would open, funds that would appear. In exchange, one thing: access. Tesla looked at the ash where his laboratory used to be. He was silent for a moment. Then he said,
"Come to the new laboratory when I have built it. You may enter whenever you choose."
He should have asked what access would cost him. Funding appeared within months, not from one source, from several, quietly, through men who could not fully explain why they were backing a broke inventor with no laboratory and nothing to show. They simply felt, somehow, that it was the right thing to do. They signed the checks without asking hard questions. Tesla rebuilt faster than anyone expected. Wardenclyffe Tower began as a sketch on hotel stationery, and by 1901 it was rising from the ground on Long Island, 187 feet of wood and steel, a transmission tower unlike anything ever built. Tesla's plan was absolute. Free wireless energy for the entire world. No wires, no meters, no bills. Every human being on Earth with unlimited power simply by existing on it. J.P. Morgan agreed to fund it, $150,000. Dracula visited the construction site 3 times. He stood at the base of the tower in the dark, looking up at the steel frame rising against the night sky, and Tesla watched him from a distance, studying an expression that centuries had made completely unreadable. He could not tell if Dracula was impressed. He could not tell if Dracula was afraid. What Tesla did not yet understand, what he would only piece together much later, was that the tower could do something he had never designed it to do. Something Dracula had understood the moment he first saw the blueprints. The tower could find him. The electromagnetic field it generated at full power would reach every corner of the Earth, and anything operating on Dracula's frequencies anywhere on the planet would be visible to it. Dracula had already decided what to do about that. Morgan sent the letter 6 months later. The funding was ending. The tower would not be completed. Tesla held that letter for a long time. He already knew Morgan had not made that decision alone. The first visit had felt like nothing. Tesla had expected something dramatic, some physical sensation, some clear moment of exchange. Instead, Dracula simply sat. In the dark corner that shadows gathered in regardless of how many lamps Tesla placed, he asked questions about the frequencies, about the electromagnetic fields, about the outer edge of the range where the signal became too weak to measure. Tesla answered, for hours sometimes. Dracula listened without taking notes. When he left, Tesla slept for 14 hours. He assumed exhaustion. It happened again after the next visit, and the one after that. 3 years passed before he understood what the tiredness actually was. He was sitting at his desk at 3 a.m, working on an equation he had first solved at 19, an equation as familiar to him as his own name, and he could not remember it. He sat there for 40 minutes. It did not come back. He found it eventually in an old notebook, his own handwriting. He stared at it for a long time and felt something he had not felt since he was a child, encountering something for the first time. He felt like a stranger reading someone else's work. Then he thought about the visits, the exhaustion, the gaps that had appeared where there had never been gaps before, the ideas that came slower, the equations that required searching. Dracula was not taking notes during those visits. He did not need to. He was not memorizing what Tesla said. He was taking what Tesla was, frequency by frequency, visit by visit, the way something ancient and patient takes what it needs from something young and brilliant and completely unaware. Dracula was not funding him. Dracula was feeding on him. And the invitation had been open for 8 years. Tesla started keeping a separate record that year. Small notebooks, written in a cipher of his own construction, Serbian, Latin, and a shorthand nobody else could read quickly. Pages that looked at a glance like technical diagrams. They were not technical diagrams, they were observations. What Dracula's presence did to the electromagnetic field in a room, what frequencies caused the slight tightening around his eyes, the almost imperceptible step backward, what a compass did when Dracula sat within 6 feet of it, what the air temperature dropped to, what happened to Tesla in the hours and days afterward. He studied Dracula the way he studied everything systematically, precisely, without emotion, following every measurement to its conclusion. He wrote his finding at the top of the first page and underlined it twice. He is not supernatural. He is natural. He operates on frequencies the rest of us have not yet learned to measure. It was the most dangerous document in the world. A complete scientific framework for understanding and therefore for stopping a 3,000-year-old immortal. Written by the only mind in history precise enough to build it. Dracula did not know the cipher notebooks existed. He continued visiting. The gaps in Tesla's mind grew wider, the pauses longer. The man who had once held entire electrical systems in his head complete, running perfect, now lost sentences before he reached the end of them. By 1943, Tesla was 86 years old, living alone in the New Yorker hotel. Westinghouse paid the bill. Out of guilt, Dracula had let him publish the inventions that changed the world, the ones that didn't threaten him. Tesla had known for a long time that his first visitor was not ordinary. He spent 48 years wondering if what he had written was enough. He left the notebooks on the desk 3 days before he died. Dracula came on January 7th, 1943. What happened in room 3327 was recorded as coronary thrombosis, natural causes. The do not disturb sign stayed on the door for 2 days. The government took everything they found. But the things that could have changed everything were already gone. Some knowledge, once taken, does not return. It simply waits.